Good morning. This is March 11th, 2026. Today's pre-market checklist. The ES, I'm not seeing any bias. We're much in the do nothing territory. Could go either direction. Looking at the indexes as a whole, I'm seeing lack of clarity. The YM did break down to the area I was expecting. While originally I was targeting a bit lower, and it could still make it down there. At this point in time, it's become too much of a range-bound situation from a daily standpoint that while it still makes sense to go a little bit lower, it's just becomes an argument either way is too strong. Looking at the Russell, pretty similar to the YM in terms of a picture that it's showing us. The Nasdaq, however, is of the indexes is the only one I'm watching a little bit today. And that's going to be the only case if we actually get a strong trend to develop. Really in either direction, the Nasdaq is one that I'd be looking to ride at this point because the argument is strong for momentum on this market. Yesterday, from a bullish standpoint, we've come down, we've tagged new lows. We had a massive rally there. We're now pausing here back at a massive resistance line. And so if we can start to break this, we could slice a lot higher. On the opposite side of that, if we start to show weakness and break down, we have a long way to fall. So taking a trend that develops in either direction today makes sense on the Nasdaq. Going then over to oil. This market is still in sort of chaos mode, but it's not had the volatility that it had 2 days ago. Calmed down quite a bit. So now I'm viewing this as a market that I want to look for some bounce plays if we get to extreme overbought and oversold conditions. So specifically, if we can get down a bit lower, I'd be looking for a bounce play down here, or if we can break through this resistance area, then I'd be looking to be a willing short-term seller up at some of these upper levels, depending on how we arrive there. So now moving on, gold and natural gas, nothing has changed from yesterday. Don't want to touch them. Copper did end up pushing higher yesterday and then sold off. Still has not quite sold off enough for me to be the interested buyer just yet. However, that said, this is one of those cases where if I was around at my computer at 6 a.m. this morning, it would have made sense to be the buyer on the shorter time frame right in this area here. And then that trade, however, has already played out. If I was in this trade, I personally would be out at break even right now. I would have not taken a profit up here because this is a play I'd be looking to hold for a lot more. But at this point in time, it's break even. It has technically not failed yet, but I think the likelihood of failure at this point is pretty high. So going to just let that play out and wait and see if we can get lower. And if we do get lower, I'll be watching for an opportunity for strength to come in and then see if I can ride it back to the upside. However, if we just keep selling off, I won't touch it. Then moving on to the 6E, we had a nice trade on this one yesterday. And interestingly, this is one thing I just like to point out because of how frustrating trading can be. So I closed this trade out because of the time of day. That was just a rule I had in place. I can't hold through the session close. One thing that I do have the option to do that I've decided not to do for at least this phase of testing is reopen the position when the market opens back up at 6 p.m. However, in this case, if I would have done that, my target was down in this area. I believe it was actually, I forget the exact price, but somewhere down in this area. And my break even was right here. So if we look at this, price came up, tagged my break even, and then went on to target. Now that would be a very frustrating experience. Now I point this out because this is one of those rare cases that doesn't seem so rare when it happens to you. Is if I had used my initial stop area up in this area, it never would have been tagged. So it would have gone all the way in favor this far, completely reversed. So you would have been seeing red at this point, only to then have it go all the way to a massive target. So that's the sort of gut-wrenching trade that you have to decide if that's the sort of thing that you're willing to endure, or if it can actually produce a sustainable edge. Because on one side of it, you have trade worked out, made profit if you would have just held on, but the other, is it really worth risking a small additional gain when you can just close it out to risk all that profit that you've made up until that point? So that's just a decision that you have to make for you and yourself. Moving on from there, Let's look at yen, nothing new there. And then, yeah, so the currencies not touching them today. And then Bitcoin, no changes here. So good luck trading today and hope it's a good one for you.